Let's talk about something every single leader has struggled with: communication. But we're not just going to talk about being clear. We're going to talk about how the really great ones, how they actually connect.
All right, I want to start with a question I know we've all been there. Have you ever prepared a message, practiced it, delivered it, thinking it was perfectly clear, and all you got back was blank stares? It's got to be one of the most frustrating feelings ever. And this usually happens in this exact situation, right? You've got a big announcement, a new project, something important. So you do what seems efficient. You write one single message and you send it to everybody: your bosses, your colleagues in other departments, and your own team.
And then the confusion starts. Maybe the execs loved it, but your team looks totally lost. Or your peers are on board, but leadership just seems completely unimpressed. You walk away just scratching your head thinking, wait a minute, didn't they all hear the exact same thing? Well, today, we are going to solve that puzzle.
So, what's really going on here? Where are we missing the mark? Well, the first step is to really understand what kind of problem we're up against. And honestly, the root cause is probably not what you think it is.
And here it is. This is the big idea that changes everything. We always think that if people don't get it, we just need to be clearer. Use simpler words, talk slower. But that's just treating the symptom, not the cause. The real issue isn't about clarity at all. It's about connection.
You see, you have to remember that your audience isn't just a sponge soaking up your words. They are actively filtering every single thing you say through 3 silent but really powerful questions. While you're talking, they're asking themselves, okay, so what? Does this actually matter to me and my job? Can I even trust what this person is telling me? And finally, what am I supposed to do with this information? If your message doesn't answer these questions for them, it's just noise.
Okay, so if the problem is connection, then how do we fix it? The answer is a really powerful tool called framing. And to see just how well it works, we're going to look at a simple but super high-stakes example I'm calling the hurricane lesson.
So picture this. A massive hurricane is about to make landfall. The facts are the same for everyone. The topic is hurricane prep. But sending out one generic message to everyone, that would be a total disaster in itself.
And this is where you see framing in action. The governor, she needs the 30,000-foot view. What's the potential cost? What are the statewide logistics? The county manager, on the other hand, needs to know operational details, like how to staff the shelters. And the families living on the coast, they couldn't care less about logistics. They need to hear one thing: when do we need to get out?
And that's the whole point. If you send a message about statewide costs to the families, you fail them. If you only talk about evacuation times to the governor, you fail her. It's not because your information was bad. It's because you had a framing failure. You didn't shape the exact same facts for the specific needs of each person listening.
Okay, so let's take this hurricane idea and bring it back into our world, into the office. Every leader is constantly communicating in 3 directions: up to their bosses, down to their teams, and across to their peers, and each one needs a totally different frame.
When you're talking up to executives, you have to remember they care about one thing above all else: outcomes, the bottom line. So instead of just saying, hey, we're launching a new system, you frame it in the language of results. This new system is going to cut wait times by 20%. See the difference? You're not talking about a task, you're talking about impact.
But now, let's flip it. When you talk down to your team, their whole world is different. They care about purpose and what it means for their day-to-day. Corporate buzzwords like operational efficiency are meaningless. But if you frame it as less boring paperwork and more time helping patients, now you're speaking their language. You've answered what's in it for me.
And what about communicating across, with your peers? Their big concerns are usually about collaboration and fairness. The phrase reallocating staff immediately sounds like a threat, like you're about to take something from them. But if you frame it around a shared goal, like this will help us balance the work so we can all keep our clinics open, you get allies instead of enemies.
Okay, so this all sounds good in theory, right? But how do you actually do it when you're rushing to get ready for a meeting? Well, let me give you a super simple, practical little toolkit you can use right away. It's called Spot, Sort, and Speak. It's just 3 easy steps. First, you spot your audience. And I don't just mean their job title. What are they worried about? What are their goals? Second, you sort through what really matters to them on this specific topic. And finally, you speak their language. You use the words, the examples, the data that will actually resonate with them. It's not about being slick. It's just about being smart and empathetic. And here's the thing.
When you get really good at this, when this becomes second nature, you're not just getting your point across more effectively, you're building the single most valuable asset a leader has. Because ultimately, framing is how you build trust.
Let me tell you a quick story about what happens when this all breaks down. There was this company, and a supervisor promised everyone on their team a bonus in June. Awesome, right? But then June came and went. And then July rolled around. Still no bonus. And even worse, just silence. And here's the part of the story that will really hit you. When they finally figured out what was going on, the employees weren't actually angry about the bonus being late. They could have understood that. What they were furious about was the silence. That silence created a vacuum, and our brains fill vacuums with the worst-case scenarios: doubt, resentment, mistrust.
So, how could that leader have fixed this? It's actually a pretty simple, 4-part playbook. First, promise. Restate the original commitment to show you haven't forgotten. Second, prove. Explain what happened with real facts. Third, own it. Take responsibility and say what you're doing to fix it. And finally, energize. Remind the team why you're all in this together. See? Honesty, when it's framed the right way, is what builds trust back up.
Okay, so we've looked at the connection problem, we've learned about framing as the solution, and we've seen why it all comes down to trust. So, now it's your turn. It's time for your leadership challenge. Here's what I want you to do. Before your very next meeting, or before you hit send on that next important email, just stop and ask yourself these 3 simple questions. First, who am I really talking to? Second, what do they already believe about this? And third, and this might be the most important one, what do I want them to feel when I'm done, not just what I want them to know? Because logic makes people think, sure, but it's emotion that makes them act.
You know, if there's one thought I can leave you with, it's this. For too long, we've treated communication like it's a megaphone. We think if we just shout our message loud enough and clearly enough, it'll get through. But great leaders know that's not true. They treat communication like a mirror. They work to reflect their message in a way that their audience can truly see themselves in it. Because when you learn to frame wisely, when you speak with that kind of empathy, people don't just hear you, they get you, they believe you, and that's when they decide to follow. So the takeaway is simple. Frame your message with care, lead with clarity, and you will build the kind of trust that actually lasts.